I found the tickets by accident. Isn't that always how it happens? There was no confrontation, no teary confession, no screaming match under flickering kitchen lights. Just a quiet Tuesday evening, the kind where the hum of the dishwasher fills the silence and the wine glasses dry upside down on the rack. I had gone looking for my headphones in the small drawer by the coffee maker. Vanessa's drawer, really, the one where she kept gum, pens that no longer worked, and every crumpled receipt she ever touched. My headphones weren't there, but something else was. 2 paper slips, smooth and thick with glossy edges. At first, I thought they were receipts, until I saw the deep black of a barcode and the shimmering silver-embossed letters spelling out. Front row, Sunderlight Reunion Tour, Wellspring Arena, October 14th. My breath caught, and I reread it. Twice. Sunderlight. Her favorite band. The one she plastered posters of in our first shared apartment. The one she danced to barefoot in our living room when she thought I wasn't watching. They hadn't toured in nearly a decade. When she saw the reunion announcement a few months ago, she squealed, spun in a circle, and told me how seeing them live was on her before 40 list. I joked she was making bucket lists early, and she laughed, wrapping her arms around me. But that was just talk. Apparently, not just talk. There they were, 2 front-row tickets, bought weeks ago. I flipped them over, looking for any mention of who the other ticket was for. Nothing. But there were signs. A faint crease where she must have held them tight. A whisper of perfume clinging to the cardstock. The price tag, $1, $200 apiece. I stared at them like they were written in another language. 2 tickets. But she never invited me. That should have been the moment I realized something was off. But denial is a stubborn thing. I remember blinking slowly, slipping the tickets back under the stray takeout menus and expired coupons like I hadn't seen them. Like they hadn't just whispered something ugly into my ear. I didn't say anything that night. Or the next. I watched her closely, in the way you do when your gut knows something your brain hasn't caught up to. Her phone never lit up with strange names. She still laughed at my dumb jokes. Still reached for my hand in the grocery store. Still kissed me on the cheek when she walked past me in the hallway. But now I was watching the gaps. She stayed late at work more often. Came home humming to herself. There was a moment last Thursday, small, stupid, when she checked her phone and smiled, then noticed me watching and flipped it over like it was nothing. She sipped her wine and asked me about my day, but her eyes were somewhere else. I started staying up later than usual, long after she went to bed, just thinking, turning over little pieces in my mind like puzzle fragments. The way she'd started dressing a little differently, like she was chasing a younger version of herself. The new cologne in the bathroom cabinet, one that wasn't mine. She said it was a sample from work, but it lingered in the hall after she came home late on Tuesday. The night she told me she was flying out for a team-building retreat in Boston, I just nodded. I asked if she needed help packing. She said no, she'd already laid everything out. That's when I really knew. Because she's never been that organized. Vanessa is chaos in motion, my whirlwind, always forgetting her charger, her earrings, her flight times. But that night, she was meticulous. The suitcase sat in the corner like a lie dressed in linen and zippered compartments. She left the next morning before dawn. I waited until the garage door hummed shut behind her. Then I went to the closet and opened her suitcase. It was almost empty. Just the essentials. 1 pair of jeans, a neutral blouse, a travel-size perfume. But the thing that stopped me cold, folded neatly under a cashmere sweater, was a black velvet jewelry pouch. Inside, 2 thin silver bracelets. Matching. I turned them over in my hands. No initials. No engraving. Just clean, minimalist design. The kind you give someone you don't want to explain to anyone else. I placed them back carefully. Snapped a photo with my phone. Later that day, I checked our bank account. The concert tickets were charged to her personal card. I wouldn't have seen it if I hadn't dug. But there it was, 2 charges from Ticket Hub Pro. A day later, a dinner reservation from Celine, a rooftop restaurant downtown with one of those exclusive ambience pages and a 4-month waiting list. I remembered suggesting it for our anniversary once, and she said, "Too expensive. Let's do something simple this year." But apparently it wasn't too expensive for someone else. My hands were shaking when I shut the laptop. The thing is, betrayal doesn't always arrive with flashing lights. Sometimes it shows up like this, slowly, with a whisper, a shadow at the corner of your eye. The quiet knowledge that you're being replaced, one smile at a time. That night, I watched her Instagram story, something she rarely posted. It was a picture of a cocktail glass at sunset. Tagged only #worktrip. No faces. No clues. Except the reflection in the glass. A silhouette. A shoulder. The shape of someone sitting across from her. It wasn't mine. I don't know how long I sat there, staring at that image, zooming in like some deranged detective in a noir film. My ears rang with silence, and my chest felt hollow, like someone had scooped out everything inside me and left just enough space for bitterness to echo. I didn't sleep that night. Or the next. I began collecting pieces. I checked her email. The passwords were still the same. She never thought to change them. I scrolled through her inbox until I found the confirmation. Ticket Hub Pro. A reservation for dinner. A forwarded hotel confirmation to someone named E. No full name. Just a Gmail address and a string of messages. So excited for this. Counting down. Can't believe we pulled it off. Front row. Like, front. Can't wait to see your face when the lights go down. She replied with emojis. Hearts. Fireworks. That stupid little smiling devil face. My stomach turned. I didn't reply. I didn't rage. I didn't throw the laptop across the room, though I wanted to. I just sat there, feeling smaller than I ever had in my life. Because love isn't supposed to look like this. Because I would have given anything to see her smile like that for me. The day she flew back, I had dinner on the table. Her favorite. I said nothing. She smiled when she walked in, kissed me on the cheek, told me she was exhausted. I nodded, offered her a glass of wine. She drank it like nothing was wrong. But I was already gone. Mentally. Emotionally. I just hadn't physically left yet. That was coming. The next morning, while she slept, I printed the emails. Booked a hotel. Canceled everything that was ours. And then I checked her trash folder. Why not go all the way? That's when I saw it. A confirmation from a courier service. A package sent to E. Crawford at an office downtown. The subject line? Enjoy the show. And just like that, I knew who the other ticket was for. I knew who she was smiling at across that cocktail. I knew exactly who he was. And I was done pretending. But before I left, before I burned everything to the ground, I was going to give her a show of my own. The last thing I packed was my watch. Not because it was important, but because Vanessa gave it to me on our 5th anniversary. She said it reminded her of me. Classic, dependable, always ticking even when the world falls apart. At the time, I thought it was sweet. Now, it just felt ironic. I left it on the dresser. Let her wonder what it meant. By the time she got home that night, I was already checked into the Hilton downtown. A room with a balcony overlooking the river and enough space to feel empty, like the life I'd been living for the past 10 years. I hadn't turned off my phone yet. Wasn't quite ready to disappear, but I left her no note, no explanation. Let her panic. Or not. Maybe she'd know exactly why the house felt quiet when she stepped inside. I needed distance. Not just physically, but emotionally. I needed to watch this woman I thought I knew unravel from a safe vantage point. I didn't want her apologies or excuses. I wanted the truth, and I wanted to watch her choke on it. The next morning, I sat at the hotel desk and opened the file folder I'd brought with me. Inside were copies of the email threads, the ticket confirmations, the dinner reservations, and photos of the matching bracelets. I laid them out like evidence in a trial, each one whispering, "You were never enough." I highlighted every date she lied to me. I marked the nights she said she was working late, but was clearly somewhere else. I made a list. Times. Locations. Patterns. E. Crawford. I didn't know who he was yet, not really. Just a name in an email and a ghost in the background of a cocktail reflection. But he had a LinkedIn. I found it within minutes. Elijah Crawford. Senior Creative Director at a boutique agency 2 floors down from Vanessa's office. Married once. Divorced. No kids. Publicly charming, privately smug. His profile picture showed him in a blazer with no tie, leaning against a brick wall like he'd just solved advertising. I printed his photo. Stuck it in the folder. I had a plan now. There was a cafe across the street from their building. Floor-to-ceiling windows, good coffee, and just enough distance to stay invisible. I sat there every day for the next 3 days, watching, timing her arrivals. Watching Elijah do that stupid hip pocket phone check as he crossed the street. I saw them exit together once, not touching, but close. Too close. The 4th day, I followed him. He walked to a parking garage. Silver Lexus. Clean. Predictable. Just like his profile. He drove toward the University District, pulled into a wine bar that looked like it served cheese on slabs of stone instead of plates. He was meeting someone, older, maybe a client. Not Vanessa. It didn't matter. I wasn't interested in the meeting. I was interested in what was in his glove box. I waited until he was inside, then approached his car. I had bought a Slim Jim 2 days earlier, practiced on my rental. Within seconds, I was in. Gloves on. Quick hands. I found nothing scandalous. Just parking passes, sunglasses, and a folded piece of paper. When I unfolded it, my heart stuttered. It was a handwritten note. Elijah, just breathe tonight. You said you've never sat in the front row before, but this is where the magic happens. You deserve this. We both do. V. My chest went tight. My fingers trembled. This wasn't just some fling. This was a fantasy. A love letter disguised as a gesture. She wasn't just cheating. She was rewriting us. Our memories, our stories, our music, with someone else in the lead role. I put everything back exactly as I'd found it and slipped out. That night, I sat in the hotel room with the note in front of me. I drank until my vision blurred. Not to forget, just to blur the edges enough so I wouldn't break anything. The next morning, I called out from work. Told them I was dealing with a family emergency. Which, in a way, I was. The concert was still 3 days away. Plenty of time. I spent the next 72 hours building the stage. First, I created a burner email, one that looked almost real. Something Vanessa wouldn't recognize. Then I emailed Elijah. Posed as a publicist from the event company managing the Sunderlight show. Congratulations. You and your guest have been selected for a backstage tour and pre-show champagne experience. Please arrive 1 hour early to redeem your exclusive access. I gave them a fake check-in table and a fake contact number that went straight to voicemail. Then I rented a camera, not just a phone, a DSLR with a zoom lens. I wasn't going to interrupt them at the concert. No, I wanted to immortalize it. I wanted to capture the moment she smiled like I didn't exist. The night of the concert, I got there early. Dressed in all black, tucked myself into the shadowed stairwell of the parking garage across the street from the venue. From there, I had a perfect view of the VIP entrance. They arrived at 6:41 p.m. She wore the red dress, the one she hadn't worn in years. The one I bought her for a gala we never went to because she got food poisoning and I held her hair back instead. Elijah wore a suit, no tie, same as his photo. She laughed when he whispered something in her ear. They kissed. She kissed him like she used to kiss me, like the world was ending and she didn't care who saw. Click. I captured it all. The approach to the entrance. The laughing. The champagne glass. The moment they realized the VIP table didn't exist. The confusion. The texts. The brief tension. Then the shrug. They went inside anyway. I let them enjoy the show. Meanwhile, I went home. I laid everything out again. The emails. The photos. The note. The tickets. And now, the photos of them together. I placed it all in a black envelope. No name on the front. The next morning, while Vanessa showered, I slid it into her work bag. She never noticed. But when she got to work, she would. And Elijah would too, because I sent him a digital version. Every image, every screenshot, every word. No threats. No confrontation. Just truth. Presented neatly. Undeniably. As she left that morning, she kissed me on the cheek, like nothing had happened. I smiled back. Have a good day, I said quietly. She turned to go, keys jingling, heels clicking on tile. I didn't say goodbye, because I wasn't done yet. The silence after impact is the loudest thing in the world. Not the crash itself. No, that's quick, decisive. But the silence that follows, that's where the real damage unfolds. Where the echo settles into your bones and refuses to leave. That's what I heard the next morning, sitting alone in the kitchen, sipping coffee from a chipped mug she'd once called hideous but charming. The mug didn't charm me anymore. By the time Vanessa arrived at her office, the digital envelope had already been delivered. A clean, anonymous email sent from an untraceable account. I timed it for 8:57 a.m. 3 minutes before her first meeting, just as she'd be settling in and opening her laptop. I imagined her screen illuminating the betrayal like a spotlight on a stage. For Elijah, it arrived at 9 o'clock on the dot. A quiet performance, perfectly timed. And I just waited. I didn't go to work. Didn't check my messages. Didn't eat. I sat at the kitchen table, the one we'd picked together from an overpriced boutique after hours of debate. The table where we hosted birthdays, where she once taught our nephew to stack sugar packets into towers. Now it was a war room. Empty. Still. Cold. At 9:12, her message arrived. Call me. I didn't. At 9:15. Please. I need to explain. Explain what? That she bought front row tickets to a band we used to love and didn't invite me? That she booked a rooftop dinner and wrote love notes to another man? That she replaced years of memories with a weekend of passion and thought I'd never notice? No, she didn't get to explain. At 9:27, a third message. I messed up. It's not what it looks like. It always is. By 10:15, my phone started ringing. I ignored every call. The knock came just after 11. I knew it was her. The way the rhythm hesitated on the third tap, the way it repeated, firm, but not angry. A familiar plea behind wood and steel. I didn't answer. Instead, I watched from upstairs, hidden behind the curtain, as she stood on the porch, makeup ruined, hair tied back hastily, one hand clenched around her phone. She knocked again, then sat on the steps like a child waiting for permission to come inside. I let her sit. After 20 minutes, she left. The texts continued. That evening, I went out. Not to a bar. Not to see friends. I needed somewhere quiet, neutral. I found myself at the library downtown. Oddly peaceful, the kind of place no one thinks to go when their life is on fire. I sat between the rows of old architecture books and opened my notebook. Not digital, not typed. Pen and paper. I needed to feel this. I listed everything I knew. The affair had been going on for at least 2 months. They communicated through a private email thread. They had met at least 6 times in person, confirmed by timestamps. She used her personal card for all transactions. He referred to her as V and signed messages with E. The bracelets were custom. I confirmed it with the jeweler. She kissed him at the concert. Publicly. Without hesitation. I flipped to the next page. I wrote one word in capital letters. Why? It stared back at me. I thought of all the moments leading up to this. The quiet drifting. The way we'd stopped finishing each other's sentences. How we'd replaced real conversation with half-hearted nods and polite distance. Had I made it too easy for her to leave? That night, back at the hotel, I finally opened her messages. The last one read, I never stopped loving you. Please let me explain in person. Please. I stared at it until the screen dimmed. The next morning, I mailed a letter to Elijah's office. Not an email. Not a text. A real letter. Inside, I enclosed one photo. The kiss. The one where she held his face like he was the only man in the world. I wrote just 3 lines. She's done this before. You weren't the first. You won't be the last. Good luck. I don't know if it was true, but it felt right. The following days blurred together. Vanessa kept reaching out, calls, texts, even emails to my work account. She didn't come back to the house. Not after that morning. But she left things, notes on the porch, a favorite book of mine with a sticky note on page 87. This line reminded me of you. I didn't read it. The turning point came the night I received the call. Blocked number. Normally I wouldn't answer. But something in me, something unnameable, told me to pick up. A male voice, hesitant. Is this Evan? It took me a second to recognize him. Elijah. I didn't respond. He exhaled slowly. I thought you should know. I didn't realize. I didn't know she was married. She said she was separated. Said you moved out 6 months ago. I closed my eyes. She lied to both of us, he continued. I ended it. I told her not to contact me again. I still didn't speak. She's broken. Not just over this. Over everything. I don't think she knows who she is anymore. And then, before I could reply, he said the one thing I didn't expect. I'm sorry. And he hung up. I stared at the phone like it was something foreign. A lifeline or a weapon. I wasn't sure which. I sat on the balcony for hours that night, watching the city lights flicker like a slow heartbeat. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just existed in the aftermath. She lied. He believed her. And I was left in the wreckage of something I hadn't even known was falling apart. I didn't go back to the house. Not yet. But the next morning, I started looking at apartments. Something small. Uncomplicated. Temporary, maybe. I needed air. A place that didn't smell like her perfume. A bed that didn't remember both of us. When I finally returned to the house to pack, she was there. Not inside. Just standing in the driveway, holding the watch I'd left behind. Evan, she said, voice barely audible. Please. I walked past her. But just before I stepped through the door, I turned and looked her in the eyes. And I said, don't ever lie to someone with a camera and a long memory. She didn't follow me. But I wasn't done yet. No, not even close. There's a particular kind of numbness that settles in after betrayal. Not rage. Not sorrow. Just silence. The kind that hums under your skin like a power line, always there, always threatening to spark. That's where I lived for the next few days, drifting through a half-life, packing boxes with methodical precision, like removing debris from a crash site. She didn't come inside. Not once. The day after I spoke to her in the driveway, I started moving my things. Small trips. A lamp here, books there. My suits. My guitar. I left behind the framed photos, the wedding, the anniversary at Lake Crescent, the grainy Polaroid of us drunk on wine and laughter in Florence. Let her decide whether to keep the ghosts. Every room felt colder without furniture, like the house was mourning with me. I found her note tucked in the silverware drawer. A pale blue envelope, unsealed, no name. Just my initial on the front, like she couldn't bring herself to write more than one letter of my name. Inside, 6 lines. Evan, I don't know how to fix what I broke. I don't expect forgiveness. But I need you to know it was never about him. It was about feeling seen. I'm sorry I made you invisible. V. I read it once. Then I tore it in half. Then again. And again. I flushed the pieces. Feeling seen. That phrase looped in my mind like a curse. I saw her every day. Even when she was barely there, I still saw her. I remembered birthdays she forgot, complimented dresses she didn't know she wore twice, made reservations to places she once mentioned in passing. I saw her. I loved her. She just stopped seeing me. But if she wanted drama, if she wanted to feel noticed, I'd give her something unforgettable. It began with the gallery. A friend of mine, Dean, owns a small art space downtown. Mostly mixed media, experimental stuff. The kind of place that looks like it belongs in Brooklyn, but somehow thrives in the heart of our city. I hadn't told Dean everything, just that I was working on a photography project and needed a venue for a single night showing. He asked what kind of photos. Documentary meets confession, I said. He loved the idea. I booked the space for 2 weeks out. Just one night. Invite only. Select audience. No press. I curated the images carefully. Not just the ones from the concert. The kiss, the champagne, the long lens smiles. I included everything. The dinner reservation. The bracelets. The second phone she thought I never found. The emails. The text screenshots. The timelines. Her name was never printed, but it didn't have to be. The exhibit had a title. Things We Don't See. Dean thought it was brilliant. So layered, he said. Like emotional archaeology. I smiled, but my stomach turned. Because I wasn't doing this for art. I was doing it for revenge. Each photograph was mounted on matte black boards, under glass, perfectly spaced along the white walls. Guests would walk through the gallery like a timeline, like peeling back the story of a man losing his wife one omission at a time. I sent her the invitation anonymously. The same blue envelope. No return address. Just a card. You're cordially invited to an evening of discovery. The location. The time. One night only. I didn't RSVP her, but I knew she'd come. Vanessa always had an ego. The kind that wouldn't allow her to ignore mystery, especially when it was wrapped in aesthetics and implication. When the night arrived, I stood at the far end of the gallery in a dark suit, hands in my pockets, nodding as people filtered through. Friends, colleagues, a few artists. No one knew the story, not really. To them, it was abstract heartbreak. Beautiful pain. She walked in at 7:46 p.m. I saw her the second she stepped through the door. Pale green dress. Hair pulled back. No jewelry. No Elijah. Her eyes scanned the space. She didn't see me. Not at first. She walked slowly, pausing at the first image, just a pill bottle. Then a close-up of a dinner bill. Then the 2 concert tickets, side by side. Her brows drew together. Confusion, then realization. Then horror. She moved faster, reaching the photo of the kiss. Then the champagne. Then the parking garage angle, where her silhouette leaned into his. Her hand shot up, covered her mouth. She turned. That's when she saw me. I didn't move. Didn't smile. Didn't blink. She started toward me, slow at first, then faster, heels echoing against polished floors. Evan, she whispered. What is this? I looked at her calmly. It's everything you didn't see. Her voice cracked. You made this? For everyone? I shook my head. Not everyone. Just the ones who needed to see what betrayal actually looks like. Stripped of excuses. Lit in gallery lights. Tears welled in her eyes. You've humiliated me. No, I said, stepping closer. You did that all on your own. I just gave it a frame. She looked around, eyes darting. This is sick. You could have just talked to me. And you could have invited me to the concert. That stopped her cold. She blinked slowly. I bought those tickets for me and my friend Clara, she said, her voice trembling. It wasn't meant the way it looked. Elijah, he was a mistake. A stupid, brief mistake. I raised an eyebrow. Funny. He said you told him you were separated. She flinched. I tilted my head. You lied to him. Lied to me. Lied to yourself. Her voice dropped. Can we please just leave? Talk. Somewhere else. This isn't you. No, I said. This is exactly me. The version you left behind while you wrote love notes to a stranger. The man who remembers everything. She looked around one more time. Then she whispered, please don't do this. I leaned in. I already did. She turned and fled, heels tapping in a staccato rhythm, a sound that felt like punctuation at the end of a sentence I never wanted to write. When she was gone, I stood in the center of the room. People clapped. Some wiped their eyes. A few whispered about raw vulnerability and real storytelling. But I wasn't there for them. This wasn't art. This was ashes. And I was still burning. There's an eerie calm that follows destruction. When all the wreckage lies in full view, and there's nothing left to hide behind. No illusions. No doubt. Just the truth. Ugly, irreversible, and unflinching. The gallery closed at 10 p.m. I stayed until 10:03. Dean offered to lock up. Said something about whiskey and processing. I declined. There was nothing left to process. I knew what I needed. I just hadn't known how much of myself I'd lose doing it. As I stepped out into the cool night air, I expected relief. But what I got was silence. Not peace. Not triumph. Just silence. I went back to the apartment, barely furnished, walls bare, the smell of new carpet still lingering in the air. It felt sterile, impersonal, but it was mine. No memories clinging to the furniture. No ghosts hiding behind photographs. I slept for 10 hours. The next morning, there were no texts. No emails. No calls. Vanessa had gone quiet. Not even a ripple in the digital pond. The silence was louder than any scream. But then the letter came. 3 days later. No postage. Hand-delivered. I found it folded neatly beneath my apartment door. Inside, her handwriting. I recognized it instantly. Sharp lines. Small loops. Each word written with deliberate care. Evan. I stood in that gallery until it emptied. Not just of people, but of pride. You showed me the version of myself I've been pretending didn't exist. And you were right. I didn't see you. Not really. I saw what you gave me. Stability. Loyalty. Patience. And I confused those things for permanence. I was selfish. I chased a version of myself I thought I'd lost. I wrapped my insecurities in secrets and called them protection. I told myself Elijah was an escape, a phase, a harmless detour. But the truth is uglier. I wanted to be chosen again. I wanted to feel wanted, even if it came from someone who didn't know the real me. You saw me. You always did. I just didn't look back. I can't undo what I did. I can't unkiss him. Can't unsay the lies. But I hope, someday, you'll remember that I wasn't always this version of myself. I hope, one day, you'll find peace where I left wreckage. You don't owe me anything. Not forgiveness. Not answers. But I owe you this truth. You were the best thing I never deserved. Vanessa. I read it twice. Then I put it away. Not in the trash. Not in fire. In a drawer. Because for all her flaws, for all her betrayal, Vanessa had once been my best friend. And maybe, that truth deserved to survive, even if everything else didn't. The months that followed moved slowly. I started walking every morning. Just 10 blocks and back. It was meditative. I stopped checking my phone first thing. I stopped rereading our texts. I deleted the cloud backups. Erased her from the folders marked home. One night in December, I found myself standing outside Wellspring Arena. The marquee was dark now. No concerts. Just echoes. But I remembered the night. I remembered how it felt to know the person I loved was inside, laughing with someone else under blue lights and guitar riffs. It should have broken me. Instead, it sharpened me. I went home that night and picked up my camera. Not to hunt memories, but to make something new. Something mine. The next year, I held my own exhibit. This one didn't feature betrayal. No damning images. Just life, strangers, faces in the rain, hands clutching subway poles, smiles in grocery store aisles. The beauty in the mundane. The gallery was full. The applause was loud. Vanessa didn't show, but a woman named Mira did. She approached me after, soft-spoken, with eyes that looked like they'd lived 1,000 quiet battles. She said the photos made her feel like someone finally saw her. And I smiled, because I knew what that meant now. We had coffee 2 days later, then dinner, then more. It wasn't a grand love story, not yet, but it was honest. And honesty, I've learned, is rarer than love. Vanessa emailed once, months after the gallery. She didn't ask for anything, just said she was in therapy, that she'd moved out of the apartment she and Elijah once shared, said she hadn't dated since. I'm learning how to be someone I wouldn't lie to, she wrote. I didn't reply, not out of bitterness, but because I believed her, and I had nothing else to say. Some betrayals deserve closure. Others deserve distance. And some, like those 2 front-row tickets, deserve to be forgotten, torn in half, burned, or simply left behind in a drawer full of silverware and silence. I kept one of the photographs from the exhibit, the one of Vanessa in profile, mid-laugh, unaware she was being watched. Not because I miss her, but because I need the reminder that love doesn't always leave loudly. Sometimes, it just stops inviting you.